Hello and welcome to another video for the Spelling Essentials video series. In today's video we'll be covering the French language and the different language rules and patterns that apply to it. First of all, let's talk about French stems. French has roots of its own, just like Latin and Greek, and most words from French tend to have these roots, or at least some variation of them. These stems also tend to help with vocabulary, since B officials tend to gravitate towards words that contain roots. There are a few stems listed here, and I'm going to be going through them one by one. First of all, the first stem is ad, aj, man, or ur. These four stems refer to act, actions, or processes of. Next, we have the people stems, ard, eus, ir, or east, which all mean people who do, or one who does. Next, we have l or et, which are both diminutive stems, which means it basically makes something smaller. We also have m or n, or in a French accent, am or an, which mean inside or inwards. We also have if, which is usually found at the end of words, if, which has the same meaning as ive in English. And we also have erie, or eri, which means the same thing as ery in English. Next, we'll be going over some helpful tips. The first helpful tip is that, as French is considered a Romance language, these words are derived from Latin. So, knowing Latin stems and roots, as well as rules, can also be helpful when attempting to decipher both the spelling and definition of words. The spelling of a at the now we're going to be getting into more specific rules, so the spelling of a at the end of words is usually spelled as or at. If that sound is near an n sound, as in pervenche, then it's most likely going to be spelled with an e. If it's not found in either of those scenarios, then it's going to be spelled with an a or o. Next, we have the ant sound. The ant sound is usually spelled in, as in maringouin. But you should be careful because it can also be spelled ain or ein in some scenarios. So make sure to study these words thoroughly. When you're in doubt, go with in or ins if it's plural. Next is the long a sound. The long a sound can be spelled many different ways. One of the more common ways is et, as in Rambouillet. French also nearly always spells the sh sound with a ch. For example, chanlever, chose, or attaché are some good examples of this. Next, we have some more language tips. First of all, the et sound at the end of French words is usually spelled ette, as in brochette and chemisette. Next, we have the long e sound. The long e sound at the end of words from French is pretty tricky. There's a few ways it can be spelled, the most common of which are ee and ie. You can spell it ee if it relates to a job or a person who does some task, but it's going to be usually ie if it comes from a feminine root or stem. Next, words that end with the aj sound are usually spelled age. Or not usually, but every single time. Anytime words end with aj sound in French, it's going to be spelled age. Next, the k sound, or the k sound, at the end of French words, it's usually spelled que, as in pandaloc or berloque. The k sound at the end of French words is spelled que. Next, we have the sh sound followed by a long e sound. In this case, it's usually gonna be spelled che, as in postiche. So, the long e sound followed by the sh sound is going to be spelled che. Next, we have the u sound. The u sound is usually spelled ou in French, as in oubliette or parcours, but it's sometimes spelled u, as in écru or parvenu. Next, we have the odd sound. The odd sound at the end of French words is nearly always spelled ade, as in fusillade or persillade. And finally, the a's sound is usually spelled aise at the end of words, as in Milanese or Lyonnaise. So another example of that is mayonnaise. Now we're going to be going over some basic French rules. So these are basically how different words are going to be spelled based on the sound. And we'll give you the most common examples. So the first sound we have today is the ah sound. The ah sound can be spelled A, O, A, S, A, T, or E, as in passerelle, Ardennes, or orgeat, or compas. So it can be spelled A, O, A, S, A, T, or E. Next we have the long A sound. The long A sound can be most commonly spelled E-T, E, or E-E, but it can also be spelled A-I, A-I-T, A-Y, A-I-S, E-R, E-Z, E-S, E-I, or A. So there's a whole lot of ways that can be spelled, but the most common are highlighted in bold and are spelled E, E-T, or E-E. For example, échelle, guignolé, muguet, or cuvée. So these example words on the side, you can always just look at these after just by pausing the video. But I'm not going to read through all of them because that's going to add a lot of unnecessary time. So you can pause the video and take a look at them. Next we have the S sound. The S sound is usually spelled E or AI. For example, rafraîchisseur, rencontre, labouchere, or plaidoyer. So the S sound can be spelled E or AI. Next we have the long E sound. The long E sound can most commonly be spelled I-E, or E-E, but it can also be spelled E, Y, I-S, I-T, I-L-L-E, or I-X. And finally we have the long I sound. The long I sound can be spelled A-I-L-L-E, A-I-L-L, A-I, A-I-L, I, Y, or I-S. So there's a whole lot of different ways it can be spelled, but usually you can figure out which one it's going to be depending on where it's found in the word. So for example, grisaille. Grisaille is going to be spelled G-R-I-S-A-I-L-L-E. So basically at the end of the word, it's going to be spelled A-I-L-L-E. Next, we have a few more language rules that we'll just go over quickly. So, the an sound. The an sound can be spelled E-N, A-N, E-M, E-N-S, E-N-T, A-N-T, A-N-S, or E-M-P-S. Next we have the aj sound. The aj sound can be spelled A-G-E or A-D-E. Sorry, the aj sound can be spelled A-G-E, as in camouflage, sabotage, espionage, or maquillage. Next we have the odd sound. The odd sound is going to be spelled A-D-E, as in bourgade, glissade, or levade. Then we have the et sound. The et sound is always going to be spelled E-T-T-E. There's occasionally an ET, but there's usually words that end in ET usually have an alternate pronunciation in which the word is going to end with the long A sound. So that's one way you can differentiate that. So the et sound is going to be spelled E-T-T-E. And along those same lines, the L sound is going to be spelled E-L-L-E, as in mademoiselle, balancelle, or a la chapelle. And finally, the last rule we have here today is the air sound, A-I-R-E. So the air sound is going to be spelled A-I-R-E, as in calvaire, fonctionnaire, or pensionnaire. So that's all of the French rules I have for today. You also have to keep in mind this isn't going to be everything that you need to know, but it's just generally what's going to be the most important for you to know in the spelling bees. These are the basics, but you can always find more by looking them up or just noticing patterns yourself by going through different language lists and finding out like where that you can find patterns. So that's the conclusion of today's video. We covered French language rules and tips, so please stay tuned for the next video.